Oh, good. People were asking me about that, so
Yes, yes, it will be recorded.
okay, good.
So welcome everyone to North Florida Land Trust Working Lunch Wednesday series. I'm Abby Carden and I am the membership coordinator at NFLT. We're so excited to have you join us today. This is our final presentation of this series here in season two. Your microphones are muted to eliminate any background noise. We will take questions at the end though, so you can either type those into the chat box, or if you really just want to ask your question live, we'll have an opportunity to unmute at the very end so you can ask your question. We are recording this session and it will be made available to all of our NFLT members and eventually on our YouTube channel so that you can share it with folks who were not able to attend today. And I just want to remind everyone we will be coming back with another session this fall. So stay tuned for the schedule release later this summer. But now, without further ado, I am so excited to introduce you all to our speaker, Jody Willis. Jody is the President and Outreach Director for the Ixia Chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society. She was previously the president of the Duval Audubon Society and held several board positions in the chapter over the last 20 years. As an avid gardener and native plant cultivator since she moved to Jacksonville in 1999, Jody has learned that gardening is a never-ending and rewarding learning experience, and she looks forward to sharing her knowledge with us today. And I personally am very excited about this presentation. We're going to learn today through 13 steps how to create a native habitat for birds and pollinators in our own yards here in Northeast Florida. So Jody, at this point, I will turn it over to you. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. Okay, well, let's get started. Um, all right, so why plant a habitat for birds? Well, the bird populations in the United States and Canada have decreased by 29% in the last 50 years. Now, this translates into a loss of about 3 billion birds in less than the average human lifespan. The latest studies, which have been updated to 2022, show that the declines are still happening across all species. So, what are the main causes of the bird population loss? Well, the number one cause is habitat loss, followed by cats in the environment, collisions with buildings and cars, and chemicals. And so today we're going to focus on habitat loss and how we can mitigate it. So, what does the loss of habitat to a bird mean? Well, it means less food supply, less nesting area, less roosting and resting area, and the expenditure of more energy to find food and survive. This is a picture, by the way, of a Bachman sparrow that was taken at Julington Durban Preserve. And this is a shy, uncommon sparrow, which is usually found in pine woods, palmetto stands, and brushy fields. And it's difficult to see because it stays near the ground in dense grass. So, habitat loss is also responsible for the insect apocalypse. One third of the world's food supply is dependent upon pollinators, and this includes native bees, wasps, moths, butterflies, beetles, and other insects for the pollination of our food. Now, I just learned this interesting fact. The United States has 3,600 different species of native bees, which is more than any other country in the world. And the native bees pollinate 75% of our plants, both cultured and wild. So, what does the insect apocalypse mean for birds? Well, a clutch of baby chickadees requires 350 to 570 caterpillars every day. So, almost all birds require insects like caterpillars to grow, even birds that mature into seed eaters. So, no insects equals no birds, and no native plants means no insects. So, Lack of native habitat means that birds and insects must search for food for longer time periods. Now, our native bees have an average territory of a third of a mile, and our bumblebees average about 2.5 miles. So longer journeys for both birds and insects tax their endurance and burn the precious energy that they need to survive. This is a picture of a mockingbird on a great native shrub known as Japan holly. So why use native plants? Well, if you use native plants in your yard, you protect both the insects and the birds. So native plants require less water, no pesticides, no fertilizers, and they save you time and money on maintenance, and they reduce carbon pollution. And reducing carbon pollution helps to slow down climate change. And this is a picture of one of my front garden beds with spotted bee balm in it. And this is a beautiful plant that blooms probably in the end of September to the beginning of October, and it's a bee magnet. It's one of my favorites. So, what do birds and insects need? Well, they need food, water, and cover, and they can only live where all of these needs are met. So, Florida's plants and animals, from bears to insects, have co-evolved over thousands of years, which results in a complex and wondrous web of interdependence. This is a picture of a little common ground dove. So they need food. An ideal landscape uses native plants to provide a year-round food supply, such as berries, fruit, seeds, and nuts. Now, some examples of berry-producing plants are pokeberry, Virginia creeper, wild grapevine, American beautyberry, Japan holly, firebush, and serviceberry. Now, this is a picture of a pokeberry. Now, this plant is native to the United States and Canada. It's got several descriptive names. It was called the red ink plant as the berries were used as dye by Native Americans. Pigeonberry because it was a favorite food of the extinct passenger pigeon, and crowberry because it's a favorite fruit of crows. Now, the flowers are attractive to pollinators and bees, and the berries ripen in the fall just in time for the migrating bird species. Now, I've seen a number of different bird species feed on pokeberries. Blue jays, cardinals, thrashers, thrushes, waxwings, woodpeckers, orioles, titmice, finches, and sparrows, for example. They all enjoy these berries. Now, the one word of caution I have is that the roots in the berries are toxic for people to consume. So if you have children and you're worried that they might eat these berries, there are other berry-producing native plants that you can use instead, such as the American beautyberry or Japan holly. They need water. Water is essential for all wildlife. And your water source can be as simple as a bird bath or as elaborate as a pond or waterfall. And I wish I could tell you that this was my yard, but it isn't. Okay, they need cover. Cover is provided by trees and shrubs, and it provides protection for birds to breed, nest, hide, sleep, and feed. And the cover can come from living trees or dead trees. Woodpeckers and bluebirds use a cavity in a dead tree for nesting. And dead trees also provide insects for food. And this is a picture of a little owl nesting in a dead tree. Now, I encourage you, if you can do it, and you have a dead tree in your yard and it's not going to fall on your house or your neighbor's yard, to leave it up as long as you can. I had a dead tree in the backyard of my place, and it was very interesting because I had a chance to watch a downy woodpecker family build a nest in the tree and raise their young before it disintegrated and fell down. Okay, so let's talk about starting in your yard. Now, you don't have to do these 13 steps all at once, and you don't have to spend thousands of dollars to transform your yard. The whole key is to start small. So the first thing you need to do is to inventory your yard. So you have to determine the current dimensions of your yard space for plantings. Make note of what areas are in full shade, partial shade, full sun. How about your soil? Is it mostly fill dirt or sand or topsoil or loam? And what about soil moisture? Do you have areas of erosion or do you have other areas with standing water due to poor drainage? If you live near the beach, is your property affected by salt spray? And there are a number of native plants that will do fine if you do live near the beach. A big example is the dune sunflower, which is a great native ground cover. So the next thing is to inventory your current plantings. Are there invasives which you need to get rid of and replace with native plants? Do you have mostly bare ground or lawn? Do you have trees and shrubs already, which might be native? Do you have native wildlife such as birds and butterflies that visit your property already because of your plantings? And this is a picture of a lovely zebra longwing feeding on Spanish needle. So I want to talk about invasives for a minute. Some of these plants are toxic to birds, such as nandina, which is also called heavenly bamboo. The berries are poisonous to cedar waxwings who feed on berries and come through the northeast Florida in the spring and fall during migration. Now, one berry might not damage the birds, but when cedar waxwings come through on migration, they're hungry and they will devour as many berries as they can because they are so hungry, and that is why they are so toxic. Birds don't distinguish between alien and native berries as they respond to plants based on their needs. If a bird is hungry, they're going to eat the nearest food source. So please get rid of your nandina. If you want to keep the plant, then I encourage you to cut the berries off and keep them cut off. Now, invasives also bring disastrous pests which can destroy native plants and disrupt the ecosystem. And one of the most glaring examples of this effect is the loss of the American chestnut tree. Now, this was the most common tree in the eastern deciduous forest, and it was a beautiful tree that generations relied upon to build log cabins, floors, furniture, and telephone poles. And the chestnuts were eaten during the holiday season. So this tree had survived for millions of years and was reduced to rare stump sprouts in one generation. So why did this happen? Well, nurseries had imported a Japanese chestnut and with it a chestnut blight. So the Japanese chestnut was resistant to this blight and the American chestnut was not. So it's taken the Herculean effort of the American Chestnut Society to bring this tree back from the brink of extinction. And now this consisted of crossbreeding with resistant Asian species, and then back crossing those offspring with the American chestnut. And so what I recently learned from an article in the New York Times is that there is some good news. Foresters have been restoring old mining sites in Appalachia with new blight-resistant American chestnut trees. And since 2009, a nonprofit called Green Forest Works has been planting more than 5 million native trees, including more than 10,000 chestnut trees across 10,000 acres of mined land. Now, invasives crowd out native plants for survival. We all know that this is kudzu, which is a particularly aggressive problem in the southeastern US. It smothers native plants wherever it grows. Now, most insects are specialists, which means they can only live in specific native plants, providing them a very specific diet, and they cannot adapt to the invasives. For example, our native oak trees support 534 species of moths and butterflies, and these caterpillars are a major part of birds' diets. By the way, Florida spends almost $1 billion a year to get rid of invasives in our state, both plant and animal. And we have the Florida Invasive Species Council, which continuously monitors and updates the invasive species list for our state. And their website is a wealth of information on the issue if you're interested. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is go organic. Never use pesticides or herbicides in your yard. Now, use slow release or organic fertilizers only when absolutely necessary because, as you know, fertilizers end up in our waterways and they cause algae blooms. Neonicotinoids such as Roundup are directly responsible for the disastrous decline in our bee, butterfly, and other beneficial insect populations. So the Florida Native Plant Society, St. Johns County Audubon, St. Johns Riverkeeper, Duval Audubon, and the Garden Clubs of America all oppose the use of this type of pesticide. Now, a growing number of countries and states in the U.S. have also been restricting or outright banning the use of Roundup. Let me just say this, that the use of any pesticide or herbicide should really be the very last resort. Unfortunately, some of these are necessary for the destruction of the invasive plants in our environment here in Florida. The point is that native plants don't need any chemicals. So you want to cater to both birds and insects. So you're going to use native plants which have fruit or nectar eaten by birds and butterflies, and plants which attract insects as birds eat insects. So some examples of this are the American beautyberry, spotted bee balm, firebush, Walter's viburnum, Simpson's stopper, and coral bean. And this is a picture of the lovely American beautyberry shrub. It's a really wonderful, easy shrub to grow. It grows in full sun or part shade. It's tolerant of drought and cold weather, and it's one of the best plants to attract birds to your yard. It readily spreads by self-sown seed or from cuttings, and the blooms are these beautiful, small, clustered, pale lavender flowers, which appear probably in the late spring, early summer, and they attract butterflies. And then the lavender berries will grow clustered on the stems in the fall, just in time for migrating birds. And all of the birds love it. Wrens, sparrows, vireos, mockingbirds, cardinals, woodpeckers, chickadees, etc. will all feed on the berries. And if you have any left over and you want to try it, you can make jam out of the berries. I would recommend a lot of sugar though, because they are very tart. So you want to feed the butterflies too. So butterflies need larval food plants. These plants can be completely denuded by hungry caterpillars, but no worries, they will grow back. Now, some examples are milkweeds for monarchs, Spanish needle for dainty sulfurs, passion flower vine for Gulf fritillary, frog fruit for Phaon crescent, white peacock and common buckeye, and purple thistle for little meadowlark and painted lady. Now, please note that tropical milkweed should not be used. It is invasive and harmful to monarchs. Let me talk about that for a minute. Tropical milkweed does not die back in November as native milkweeds do, and this disrupts the migration of monarchs. In addition, there is a parasite, the OE parasite, which lives on milkweed plants, which can infect the monarch caterpillars when they come in contact with the spores. Now, this parasite reduces the lifespan, causes difficulty in mating, and some monarchs won't even hatch as a result. Now, continuous breeding on tropical milkweed, because it doesn't die back in the fall, allows this parasite to build up to extremely high levels, as there's no period of migration to cleanse the population. So this leads to reduced genetic diversity and disrupts the migration pattern. And this, by the way, is a picture of a wonderful passion flower vine flower, and that is the Gulf fritillary caterpillar on it. Okay, so is that a weed? Now, one of my favorite weeds is Spanish needle, also known as Biden's alba. It's the third most nectar-producing plant in Florida, and it's beloved by bees, butterflies, and beekeepers alike. It blooms year-round, which means there is always food available for bees and butterflies. Now, other weeds include spiderwort, spotted bee balm, giant ironweed, and blue porterweed. Okay, use red flowers. Now, there are a number of native plants with tubular red flowers that are attractive to hummingbirds, bees, butterflies, and people. These include trumpet honeysuckle, crossvine, firebush, red buckeye, tropical sage, scarlet hibiscus, and coral bean. And this is a picture of a firebush plant. This plant is superb in your yard as it is a major nectar-producing plant, attractive to hummingbirds, bees, and butterflies with its beautiful tubular flowers. It produces small reddish berries which will ripen to a blackish purple and attract birds in the fall. So, and it's very easy to grow as well from either cuttings or seed. Um, if it is cold enough, it will lose its leaves in the winter months, um, and it might die back to the ground. However, it will come back once the weather warms up. So you want to use layers of plantings. Now this includes large trees, small trees, big shrubs, small shrubs, grasses, wildflowers, and vines. And if you provide vegetation at every level, you're supporting the animals and insects which forage and nest on the ground, a few feet up, and in the treetops. So some examples of birds' nesting behavior. Now, sparrows and wrens, for example, will nest on the ground or in small shrubs. The cardinals and blue jays and mockingbirds will probably nest in shrubs in the middle of trees. And then you're going to have owls and hawks who will nest in the treetops. Don't deadhead. Now, flowers such as black-eyed Susan, blanket flower, purple thistle, and starry rosinweed provide food for both pollinators and birds. In the autumn, instead of removing the spent flowers, leave the flower heads on as goldfinches and other birds will eat the seeds. Of course, you can also collect some of the seeds if you want to continue to grow your patch of particular wildflowers. And then many insects, such as our native bees, overwinter inside hollow, dried flower stems. So if you can, and you don't mind a little bit of a messy garden, allow them to remain through the winter and cut them down in the early spring. And this is a picture of a bee on blanket flower. Okay, so start replacing your lawn. When we put lawns in, we turn important habitats into dead zones. Now, you don't have to replace your entire yard. You can start small and diversify. Even a small space can include a number of different plant species. Some examples of ground covers are June sunflower, which you see a picture of here, blue-eyed grass, frog fruit, and powder puff mimosa. Now, I want to talk about lawns for a minute. Now, lawns comprise 40 million acres, making them the largest single irrigated crop grown in the United States. with very little benefit and harmful to wildlife. It uses an estimated 59 million pounds of pesticides, which leach into our waterways. They use an estimated 7 billion gallons of water per day. A St. John's Water Management District study shows that 45 to 55% of all residential water consumption is for the irrigation of lawns. So mowing, edging, and leaf blowing emits about 26.7 million tons of pollutants per year into the atmosphere. So consider tracking how much water you use for your lawn and consider having a Freedom Lawn instead. And what that means is it's free from all chemicals. You mow it when you feel like it, and it's a mixed lawn. It's not just St. Augustine grass. If you want more information on Freedom Lawns, please go to the Duval County Extension Office website, and they have lots of information there about how converting your lawn to a Freedom Lawn if you want to still keep some grass. I have to because I live in an HOA. Okay, use leaves and grass clippings as mulch. Now, you may worry that this will create a messy garden, but you can edge your garden neatly and you can train your lawn company to blow your leaves into your beds. Now, leaf litter provides free mulch, free weed control, free fertilizer, and wintering habitat for our native bees and other beneficial insects. Now, many native trees are host plants for caterpillars who need a leaf layer in which to overwinter. So mammals and birds that enjoy tree shelter will also benefit from a leaf layer where they can forage for food. And if you don't have any trees in your yard, maybe you can steal your neighbor's leaves if they don't want to use them. Now, a note on ferns. Now, ferns are a lovely ground cover instead of grass, and they have a total advantage over grasses because they don't need full sun and they are perfect for deep shade. Now, some native species will grow only in soil with lots of humus, such as your fallen leaves and grass clippings. And this is a picture of our beautiful southern shield fern. Some other native ferns are cinnamon fern and royal fern. And please note that the tuberose sword fern, which is also nicknamed the Boston fern, is not a native fern and should not be used. Now, if you don't have a yard, you can use containers to create a native plant habitat. Some native flowering vines, such as trumpet honeysuckle and passionflower vine, do just fine in pots. Also, if you want more information on creating a pollinator pot, the Florida Wildflower Foundation has a great example on their website, and it will list all of the plants that you can put in a pot to create a pollinator pot. The last thing you could do is join your HOA. Ask them to turn common areas into native plant habitats. And you can explain to them that it will save on maintenance costs of common areas and they won't need to mow, prune, fertilize, spray, or replace the plantings on a regular basis. And it will also help to provide a connected habitat in your community. And finally, I would like you to consider this one final thought. Imagine that our world is a jet airplane. Now, we might not notice the loss of a rivet or two or suffer any consequences on any given flight across the Atlantic. But if you lose enough of those rivets in flight, then the plane will crash with all on board. And these rivets are like those seemingly unimportant species we are trying to save. We know too little to be so arrogant and assume any life on this planet does not matter. And this picture is for one of our members, Lisa Williams. This is her backyard, and she won an honorable mention in the Florida Native Plant Society 2023 Landscape Awards for this. Okay, that's it.
Wonderful. Jody, thank you so much. That was incredible. I know I have plenty of questions, but I'm going to give others an opportunity to go ahead and ask questions first. So if you do have a question, go ahead and put it in the meeting group chat
And you want me to
or,
do the stop share?
oh yeah, that's fine.
Okay, here.
There we go. Now we can see everybody. So yes, if you do have a question, feel free to type it in the chat box in the meeting group chat, or you can use the buttons at the bottom. There's a react button, and if you hit the arrow beside that, nope, that's not the right one. Yes, it is. Okay, you can raise your hand or ask to be unmuted, and I will open it up. We'll give everybody a few minutes to think of their questions.
Oh.
Okay, first question. Have a retention pond backyard edge. What to do?
Good question. Again, I would have to ask, what plants do you have around it already, if anything? Does it, are they spraying around it? Have you seen any bird life on it? I mean, uh, those are all questions that you have to answer.
Trying to change from grass.
Great. Well, again, that's the area around a retention pond. I mean, there's a lot of native plants that you can use, but I would have to say that, I mean, I'd have to, well, I wouldn't have to look at it, but there's a lot of native plants that you can use around an area like that. For example, buttonbush, swamp milkweed, etc. But the big question for me is whether or not it gets sprayed on a regular basis, because even if you put native plants in there, if you're using pesticides or herbicides, you're not going to have any insects that are going to appear there.
Anyone else? Questions? Spray the lake or the yard?
If you're spraying, then you're, what are you spraying?
I think maybe I'm trying to interpret here. I think she was saying that maybe she's asking if you were asking if they're spraying the yard or spraying the lake or like spraying chemicals in the pond.
I need more information as to
Maybe we
whether
can connect you. Maybe we can connect you to offline.
okay. I did see a question about mimosa. It's powder puff mimosa. That the question to answer that question, it has a beautiful little pink powder puff flower on it.
Is that one also sometimes called sunshine mimosa? Is that the
Yes.
same thing? Okay.
Yeah, if you want to see a great example of it as a carpet, we have a huge patch of it at Native Park in Riverside. So you're certainly welcome to go over there and look at it. Mine is blooming right now, so.
We have another question. Great presentation, thanks. There used to be hundreds of thousands of American coots in the St. Johns River in winter months. There were huge flocks. What happened to them? I rarely see any.
Well, they migrate. So, I mean, so there's some that might stay here and there's some that might that migrate north. There some of them will stay here through the winter and then go back to their home. So, all right, wait a minute.
Okay. Next question. Have you noticed that our summer heat is making it hard for plants to survive?
Not native plants. They're used to this type of extreme weather. What's happening is if there is a drought, most plants are not going to blossom. So because blossoming takes so much energy, that's what I see, is that if it's hot and it's not raining, you're going to have green leaves, but you're not going to have blossoms.
Okay. Question going back to the mimosa, is that the same as sensitive mimosa?
Yes, that's another name.
Okay. Can I move Spanish needle from the middle of the yard to a preferred area? Is there a better time in the year to do so?
You can do it at any time, and certainly you can move it whenever you want.
I had it confused with chickseed.
Oh, well, Coreopsis?
Maybe.
Well,
Mm,
tick-seed Coreopsis is yellow. It's a yellow flower.
okay.
Okay, and Spanish needle is white with a yellow center.
Center, right. Okay. I was just calling it the wrong thing.
That's okay.
Those are both native though, right? And both the
Yes, it is.
coreopsis.
Well,
Okay.
Spanish needle it's technically not a native
Mm,
now. And sometimes they change it. A native plant definition is something that was here before the Europeans discovered America.
mm,
That's the definition. But Spanish needle it's very well established. It's not invasive, and it's a really critical piece as a nectar plant for our pollinators. And Nandina, I have removed the question about removing Nandina with its extensive root system. You might have to, unfortunately, cut it down to the ground and apply pesticide to the roots to destroy it. That's what happens when you have an invasive like that. We do have members that have their pesticide application license, because we do invasive removal days at the parks around around Jacksonville.
I have so many more questions. I could keep going, but I don't want to dominate the conversation.
Okay.
Anybody else wanna ask a question?
Abby,
All right, I'll ask one more, but I know where to find you, so I can email you too.
you can ask as many as you want.
My other quick question is, well, actually, I have two now that I'm looking out my front window. What is and this is totally putting you on the spot because I don't even have a photo, but it's a ground cover. It's like my entire front yard, short purple, like darker purple color, and we call them hitchhikers. The little seed pockets get all over your socks and shoes. They're very sticky.
Well, that sounds like Spanish needle.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Huh.
but the purple one, I don't know.
It's the same plant. It has like little purple flowers at the top, and then these little seed packs that like grow off.
you're gonna have to send me a
I'll send you a
picture.
picture. I'll
Yeah.
send you one.
Okay.
That it's my entire front yard.
Okay. All right.
And then I said too, so my other really promised last one is so the elephant ear, or what is the right terminology? Is it a taro?
Yeah, if it's invasive, yes.
Okay. So that one is same kind of question as the Nandina. What's the best way? So I have like the big piece, right, that I could dig up, but then all the little shoots that are underground.
I mean, personally, I would start with digging it up.
Okay.
Again, I have to emphasize that, chemicals are a last resort.
Mm-hmm.
Try digging up the shoots as well. And if you're still unsuccessful, then you might have to go to the pesticide or herbicide route.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. I just saw a question about vinegar. Yeah, I wouldn't. you can use white vinegar. Um, I wouldn't go any for if you really want to use something. I would use the kitchen type of white vinegar. Don't use any type of vinegar is very caustic. Other than the 3% acidity that we have in the kitchen. So I would use them. Um, I use that if you want to use the vinegar. But again, I mean, I spend a lot of time just pulling up invasives rather than spraying anything because I just I just don't like chemicals. They cause more problems. So, um, but you can also, again, integrated pest management, you can go on the Duval County Extension Office website and look at suggestions they have there as well. They do have some good information there.
Oh,
Oh, yes. Hi, Pamela. Yes, I know, torpedo grass. Um,
the question is, my garden has been taken over by torpedo grass. Impossible to pull up. Ideas?
um, well, Pamela, did you want to? I can just say to Pamela, did you talk to Adam or both Adams? They have their pesticide application license now. I would ask them if they can come over and or suggest a pesticide to or herbicide to use for that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What about, there was one other question before that too. I have a mix of natives and perennials in my garden. Some need mulch, others don't. But would the natives do okay with mulch?
What are you mulching them with? Is the question. If it's fallen leaves, sure, that's great. If it's, I mean, you don't need to buy mulch. Pine bark is fine. Sure. Yes, that's fine. Yep.
And there's another question I'm seeing, is vinegar an effective fungicide? White fungus on our Japanese magnolia, and we sprayed vinegar on the branches.
I don't know because I don't know anything about a Japanese magnolia. So I can't give you advice on that.
All right, last chance. Any other questions? All right. Well, Jody, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure to hear from you today. We really appreciate it. For all of our members, I do want to remind you that we will have a new series, a new season of Working Lunch Wednesday for the fall. And we will send information about that via email over the summer. So be sure, even though it's hot outside and you're probably not going to be doing too much, I know I'm not going to be out there unless there's water involved. But not too much water, right, Jody? But I do encourage you to check your email because we will be putting out information about the fall. We do also have a few spots left for our kayak tour of Egan's Creek. We're going to be looking at the Thornton's Family Preserve, which is our new acquisition that was donated up in Amelia Island. So that is coming up on June the 12th. If you are interested in that, please do sign up for that. I'll be resending that link out this afternoon. So spread the word to other members. We hope to see you there. And then we'll be taking a break from the outdoors for the rest of the hot months and back at it in the fall. So if there's anything that you guys have questions about, anything you want to see for the membership program, please email me. It is me checking the email. I'm a real person. And I would absolutely love to chat with you about what you want to see and do with your membership at NFLT. So please do reach out. But thank you so much.
Abby,
Yeah.
just one quick thing. If anybody would like to, we have our Native Park Workday on the first Saturday of every month from 8:30 to 11:30. You're welcome to come. It's a great way to see native plants in action. And I collect seeds on a regular basis, and I'm happy to share. Just email me and let me know if you're going to come. And then also, Abby, if you want to stay on after everyone gets off, if you have more questions, I'm happy to do that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful Wednesday. Bye-bye.
Bye.